The King of the South is adding fuel to the flames as the rap industry has reached a breaking point. Imagine the cultural uproar that might result from a man whose reputation has been tarnished for years by accusations of snitching. Abruptly changes the course of events and blames the gun at billionaire directly, 50 Cent. He didn't merely refer to him as a snitch though. Tip went straight for the jugular, calling Curtis Jackson a hardcore drug dealer and essentially calling on the police to pay attention. Is this a deliberate counterattack in a decade-long game of chess, or is it a sincere quest for justice? For the past 4 years, 50 Cent has been using his enormous platform to harass T by bringing up his infamous Crime Stoppers video and past legal issues. However, things are now reversed. T isn't playing defense anymore. T is attacking the entire basis of 50's tough guy persona by pointing out 50 Cent's purported past and asking why the police haven't knocked on his house. This is no longer just a small-scale Instagram feud. Legacy is at risk in this titanic struggle that we are seeing. Calling someone a serious drug dealer in a public forum is more than just calling them names or inciting conflict, which is something that most people try to avoid all their lives. We are dissecting this heated confrontation in this script. We examine the receipts, the history of their hostility, and the true motivation for T.I.'s decision to end his quiet and demand accountability. The allegations are flying quicker than a lead single on the charts. So grab some popcorn because the verses we never got in music is currently taking place in the court of popular opinion. Who is merely attempting to maintain the narrative, and who is speaking the truth? Now let's explore the beast's innards. Conflict is nothing new in the rap scene. However, when the brain behind Junit and the Monarch of the South square off, it transcends music and turns into an ideological conflict. Tension between 50 Cent and T is not a recent development. However, the business underwent a radical change when T declared Curtis Jackson to be a hardened drug dealer and requested his immediate arrest. In order to fully comprehend the seriousness of this escalation, we must examine the root of this conflict, which goes beyond record sales to include the street code that both men purport to defend. 50 Cent has been the undisputed king of petty for years, utilizing his enormous social media following to destroy his competitors' reputations. The snitching story has always been his main tool against T. 50 Cent was able to sow mistrust in the minds of young people by repeatedly bringing up T's 2007 federal weapons conviction and his involvement in Crime Stoppers. Any collaboration with police authorities is viewed as the ultimate betrayal in the traditional hip-hop scene. For more than 10 years, 50 Cent kept T on the defensive because he was aware of this. But when T made the decision to stop playing the victim of 50's trolling, the dynamics shifted. Tip changed the course of events. Rather than giving the thousandth explanation of his background, he looked closely at the 50 Cent's brand, which is based solely on the exaltation of being a street sand survivor and a hardcore drug dealer. He posed an extremely risky query. In both his music and his television empires, including Power and BMF, 50 Cent is as authentic and criminal as he portrays himself to be. Why has he never been subject to the same level of legal scrutiny as everyone else? This was the site of T.I.'s most contentious strike. T isn't necessarily acting as an informant when they demand that 50 Cent be arrested. He is drawing attention to what he believes to be a significant systemic hypocrisy. The mutually assured annihilation method is the foundation of T.I.'s reasoning. Let's look at your history if you want to call me a snitch for my legal resolution. He is effectively arguing, by branding 50 Cent a serious drug dealer in a public venue, T is trying to undermine the untouchable mystique that 50 Cent has built. You claim to have managed empires and survived 9 shootings, but you get away with it while others are doing life sentences for far less. In the world of rap feud, family is often off bounds, but when 50 Cent started implicating T's family, particularly his son, King Harris, the psychological warfare intensified. However, 50 Cent has never followed the rules. The King of the South reached his breaking point when 50 started making fun of T's parenting style and King Harris's tough guy character. In addition to his comments, T replied with a slew of furious diss tracks, like As War and The Right One, in which he did more than simply rap. He claimed to be a GAINST and questioned 50's character, calling him a digital bully who hides behind a screen yet depends on the protection of the very system. T.I.'s demand for 50's arrest is a calculated ploy to make the public view 50 Cent as a protected asset rather than a street icon. Tip contends that 50 Cent's career is contradictory since he makes money off of the tales of drug dealers and gangsters, such as the Black Mafia family, while keeping close relationships to businesses and purported law enforcement. If T.I. can persuade the audience that 50 Cent is an industry-protected figure, then 50 snitch jokes lose their impact. This claim goes deeper than any lyrical punch because it threatens the foundation of 50 Cent's get rich or die trying reputation. The hip-hop community's response has been a combination of analysis and shock. Many fans are split. Some think T has finally gone insane by telling the police about a rival, while others think it's a great way to highlight the industry's unfair practices by pointing out that those who shout no snitching are defying the code of silence. T is contesting the notion that the truth is more complex than a meme. As we wrap up this first chapter of the story, the feud's terrain has been irreversibly altered, shifting the goalposts from the recording studio to the courts of public opinion. The loudest are frequently the ones the law never seems to touch. In a time where social media influence frequently surpasses street reality, he is forcing a discussion about who is truly real by ceasing to be defensive about his own paperwork and instead demanding 50 Cent's paperwork. In an attempt to declare, if the rules apply to me, they must apply to you, too. T has thrown down the gauntlet and called his opponent a serious drug dealer. There is a lot of excitement in the air. T is no longer just a rapper defending his throne. He has taken action that has significant legal and social ramifications. He is a man out to destroy the reputation of 50 Cent. But as anybody familiar with hip-hop history knows, 50 Cent is most dangerous when he is cornered. Gokin responded, he built his career on conflict and isn't the type to let an accusation like hardcore drug dealer. T has lighted the fuse and the explosion is about to happen, setting the stage for a counterattack that could define the next 10 years of hip-hop history. The question is not only whether 50 Cent will react, but also how much harm both men are willing to do to their legacies in order to establish who is the realest in the room. The King of the South has demanded an arrest, but by doing so, he may have invited a level of scrutiny upon himself that no one, not even a king, is truly prepared for. In the world of high-stakes rap feud, there's an adage that goes, if you come for the king, you better not miss. T didn't simply throw a punch when he called 50 Cent a hardcore drug dealer and sought an arrest. However, 50 Cent is a master of digital execution, not just a rapper. The deafening hush that followed T's demand was only the calm before the trolling tsunami. From Ja Rule to Rick Ross, 50 Cent has built an empire on the rubble of his opponents' reputations. He wasn't going to let T to change the rules of the game without a fight. And the change from 2 takes us from T.I.'s aggressive move to 50 Cent's methodical dismantling of T.I.'s credibility. Instead of a police complaint or a legal declaration, 50 Cent answered with what T detests the most: humor combined with humiliation. 50's Instagram turned into a display of T's most vulnerable moments within hours of his hardcore drug dealer remarks making headlines. The irony was too great for 50 to ignore, and he started by making fun of the entire notion that a man with T.I.'s paperwork passed would ever order the arrest of someone else. After he dubbed T the Federal Bureau of Atlanta, the conflict's trajectory darkened and became familial. King Harris, T's son, has been attempting to develop his own street reputation, which frequently results in public humiliation for the Harris family. As was indicated in the foundation of this friction, 50 Cent takes advantage of this opportunity like a predator, in an attempt to demonstrate that T couldn't even manage his own household, let alone decide who the police should arrest. He started sharing videos of King Harris's tantrums and contrasting them with T's King of the South speeches. This was the height of disrespect for T, who had to juggle his responsibilities as a rap warrior and a caring parent. The business started to split geographically and ideologically, a dual identity that 50 Cent brutally exploited as the temperature mounted. While the Gun It period followers in New York were revitalized, the town legends in Atlanta remained largely silent, honoring T.I.'s legacy while being cautious of 50 Cent's scorched earth policy. T claimed he was being truthful. However, 50 Cent said that T was acting in an emotionally disturbed manner. This aspect of the story also emphasizes the significant change in the power dynamics surrounding beef in 2026. While 50 Cent is employing T is attempting to appeal to the fairness of the law using reasoning and civilian arguments. Cent reacts with a 5-second meme that has 10 times the interaction each time. T.I. posts a 10-minute video outlining his argument using large vocabulary terms, what 50 calls Dictionary Talk 50. This creates an unpleasant loop for T. While 50 Cent treats him like a character in a comedic sketch, he is attempting to create a serious discussion about criminal justice and hypocrisy. We also need to consider the effect on their own brands. T has been attempting to establish himself as a political activist, a wise cultural elder, and a community leader. He ran the danger of offending the very community he purports to represent by calling for a 50 Cent arrest. According to the hip-hop vocabulary, it is impossible to be both a man of the people and a police caller at the same time. 50 Cent took advantage of this paradox by portraying T as a perplexed activist. 50 further undermined T's attempts to categorize him by claiming that a true serious drug dealer would never be as noisy as T. When rumors started to emerge that T.I. was preparing a folder of proof to support his claims, the tension reached a fever pitch, and 50 Cent didn't back down, knowing that his corporate connections and legal staff had investigated his past for decades. He doubled down and sought the investigation, making T appear to be bluffing. T.I. found himself in a corner. You start to appear like the boy who cried wolf when you tell the world that someone is a hardcore drug dealer, and nothing occurs. T appears to be a liar if the police fail to apprehend 50, and the greatest informant in history if they do. As we come to a close, the chess pieces are in a state of anarchy, with T steadfastly adhering to his hardcore dealer narrative despite the fact that his own peers are beginning to distance themselves from the arrest talk. The battle has evolved from a musical dispute to a fundamental struggle over who gets to define realness. But 50 Cent is laughing all the way to the bank, leveraging the debate to draw attention to his most recent television endeavors. I wanted to put 50 Cent in a cage, but it's possible that he unintentionally created a cage for his own image. Now, it's more than just who is the superior rapper, it's about the receipts. In the next part, we'll see what happens when the digital war moves into the physical world. The streets are still watching. Even if 50 Cent dismissed T's demand, what happens when the expected paperwork actually begins to appear? And why does 50 Cent appear so unfazed by an accusation that could destroy anyone else? The stalemate has reached a breaking point, and the outcome of this competition will determine who stays a monarch and who becomes a cautionary tale. 50 Cent answered with the psychological warfare that has made him a billionaire in response to T.I.'s move, which no one in hip-hop ever anticipated, demanding the arrest of a peer. However, as we approach this last stage, the debate isn't simply about who is winning the internet. It has to do with the receipts. T said he had evidence. A folder of data that would reveal 50 Cent as a dedicated drug dealer, who has been shielded by the very authorities he says he avoids. This assertion transformed the dispute from a social media circus into a high-stakes legacy investigation. T was trying to become a street whistleblower instead of just a rapper. The narrative now turns to the moment of truth, as the public waited for weeks to see if T would actually disclose documentation about 50 Cent. Paperwork is the holy grail of destruction in the hip-hop lexicon. If T could demonstrate that 50 Cent possessed a get-out-of-jail-free card, it would render all of 50's lyrics void. T said that the math didn't make up, citing specific dates, historical New York cases, and the enigmatic circumstances behind 50 Cent's survival and subsequent rise to prominence. 50 Cent's response was his most calculated move to date. But how can a man with so much street involvement avoid the RICO accusations that have destroyed every other significant group in the genre's history? He dared T to let go of anything he had, but instead of hiding, he leaned into the examination. Corporate security was the source of 50's confidence, as he noted that every major network he collaborates with, every bank that funds his films, and every legal team behind his Power universe has already conducted a more thorough background check than T could. The 50 Cent defense was excellent. The police do not protect me. A new generation of fans that prioritize hustle and legal bags over the traditional street norms found resonance in this response. I'm protected by the Forbes list. When King Harris, T's kid, became the focal point of the conflict once more, the tension reached a breaking point, and 50 Cent painted King's public hardships. The audience's pivotal moment occurred when T, a male, attempted to report a neighbor's smoke while his own house caught fire. The King of the South label started to feel heavy, and fans began to question why T was so worried about the arrest of hardcore drug dealers. T unintentionally alienated himself from the very group that made him a superstar. So why isn't he concentrating on the young people in his own city by stirring up controversy over law and order? He was preaching to a group of people who didn't want a preacher. Instead, they needed a leader who recognized the difficulties facing the system rather than someone who advocated for its intervention. We must examine the final earnings of their CARERST as the dust starts to settle. He is a lyrical genius who brought us urban legend and trap music. He may have wanted to expose a hypocrite by calling for 50's arrest, but his legacy is now inextricably linked to this snitching controversy. 50 Cent, on the other hand, came out of the fire seeming untouchable. Although he ultimately reinforced the notion that he is too close to the legal system, he demonstrated that a group of shooters isn't a rapper's best defense in 2026. This dispute also acted as a funeral for the previous street code, with a team of solicitors and a sizable social media following capable of memeing any accusation into oblivion. The norms of the 1990s and 2000s are no longer relevant in this shift. T.I. was battling with the weapons of a king in an effort to maintain an accountability and truth standard. I wanted a versus of character, but 50 Cent gave him a versus of clout by leveraging humor, entertainment, and corporate respectability to win the war of public opinion. In the wake of the controversy, T has stepped back from the spotlight, concentrating more on his business endeavors in Atlanta and his podcast, The Right One, rather than who was more genuine. While 50 Cent continues to dominate the media scene and has announced new initiatives that further blur the lines between his criminal reputation and his millionaire reality, he has maintained his stance, albeit at a quieter volume. Instead of resulting in an arrest, the serious drug dealer charge increased viewers. Looking back at this decades-long conflict, we see two guys who are mirror images of each other, proving that controversy is just another type of currency in the current economy. They both survived on the streets and came from nothing. Both became icons, but 50 Cent embraced, monetized, and weaponized his history, while T battled the weight of it and the criticism of society. There will probably never be a formal peace treaty, cooperation, or handshake between the King of the South and the Mogul of the North. As we wrap up this script, we've learned from this battle that the truth is frequently less significant than the hook in the realm of high-profile conflicts. 50 Cent had the audience, but I had the reasoning. The demands for arrest, the hardcore dealer labels, and the accusations of snitching are now merely chapters in the enormous book of hip-hop history, where the person who is still standing when the music stops writes the book's conclusion. Ultimately, both 50 Cent and T have survived. However, this story demonstrates that it is much easier to survive on the streets than it is to survive in the court of public opinion. The world's attention was the only thing that was really captivated when I asked for an arrest. And the only thing that counts in 2026 is attention. The ardent drug dealer is still at large. The monarch is still seated, as it waits for the next spark to ignite the fire. The civilization keeps advancing. The Southern monarch recently went nuclear. Is he correct though? Or has he finally gone too far? T's request for a 50 Cent arrest has permanently altered the rules of rape and destroyed the internet. I want to hear from you now. Is this the ultimate snitch move? Or is it just exposing hypocrisy? Because of his corporate connections, is 50 Cent truly untouchable? Please share your ideas in the comments section below. Every single one is being read by us. Remember to turn on notifications and hit the subscribe button so you never miss the next installment of the greatest battles in hip-hop history, one receipt at a time. We are delving deeply into the truth. I'll see you in the comments. I'll see you in the comments.